Morning, church. As we begin another day, I pray that you are all in great spirit, and if you're not, I pray that you can find joy in the Lord. And I know it can be really challenging to do that, but I promised if you earnestly and genuinely look to God, that He will always provide. With that, let's begin. Can you imagine living life without a mirror? Like, how would we know what we look like? Or how would we know if we had food stuck in between our teeth? You see, mirrors are really important. We depend on them a lot more than you think. When we go to the bathroom, when we brush our teeth, when we shave, or we put on contacts, when we fix our hair, or even when we just look at the mirror and want to compliment ourselves or look at our outfit. Now, one of the movies that I watched as a child a long time ago was Snow White. Now, I don't actually remember why, when, or the occasion for why I was watching this movie, but I do remember that there was a saying and a famous scene that kind of came from this movie, and it basically goes like this. It's mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. Now, if you remember the movie, you would know that there's this queen, a very evil queen, who has this mirror which she talks to and communicates with, and she basically is asking this mirror, who's the prettiest? Who's the fairest person of all? And obviously, the queen wants to hear that because it's a mirror, that it's her, that she is the fairest of them all. But the mirror doesn't say that, it actually says that it's Snow White. And because of this, we know in the story that the queen, now she has like a target. She's going to go after this Snow White person, and now she hates this person and wants to do anything to get rid of her. Now, the purpose of a mirror is to see our reflection. And if the mirror fails to do that, then it's not really what it's supposed to be doing, right? So like kind of in the movie, you can imagine how frustrating it was for the queen to ask a mirror who's the fairest of them all, expecting it to be her when she got something totally different. And I'm so glad mirrors are not like that in real life, because if that was the case, it'd be kind of sad. But you might be thinking, wait, there are mirrors like that, right? If you go to like a trick museum, you know they're the mirrors that don't give the correct reflection. Sometimes the mirror makes you short and fat, and you go to a different mirror, it makes you look long and skinny. And then there are some of those mirrors that like totally distort the way that you look. So it's really important that our mirror is doing its job, because if it isn't, we change the mirror, we get a new one, right? Get one that actually does what it's supposed to do. If the mirror is broken, get a new one. If it's stained, get a new one. If it's warped, then you better get a new one. Now, the whole idea of mirrors and why they're important to us, it's kind of based around this idea of self-image, the way we look, the way we appear. Image is really important, right? And mirrors help us identify and see for ourselves who we really are. A lot of the times we call this image building or image constructing. Right? We build and we create this image of ourselves that we want the world to see. We think that if we can build a strong self-image, then every other part of our lives will follow suit and we'll be successful and life will be all good and great. Think about what social media does to us, right? We always want to put our best foot forward. We want to show people our successes and moments of happiness. We want them to see all the good things of our image. And what happens a lot of times is that our self-image becomes based on this very image of social media, right? We look to other people, we look at others, we look at celebrities, we look at K-pop stars, we look at our friends. We look and we compare ourselves to these things. And all of these act as mirrors to us. But more times than not, they're reflecting a very wrong image of who we are. And unfortunately, we find ourselves trying to match an image that is not us. And you can see why this is problematic, because one, it's not you, and you're looking at an imperfect mirror, right? You're looking at something that's projecting the wrong image, and yet we try to match with that as much as possible. Today, we continue with the book of 1 Peter, and we're going to be looking at chapter 2. Now remember, the central theme of the book of 1 Peter is hope, and it's hope to a church that is in the face of struggles and challenges. But one thing that I didn't mention to you is that the letter written by Peter was specifically written to believers that were spread out throughout the land, specifically throughout the Asia Minor, and because of their faith in Jesus, they were facing these difficult challenges. Look at 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 to 10. It says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you might proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." Peter is writing to a group of people who have been attacked and accused for what they believed in, and they're struggling. And so Peter is reminding these believers of a mirror in which they should look at. Imagine how difficult it must have been for them being attacked for what they believed in. I'm sure they're looking to their neighbors and maybe people that are living a much better life and thinking, man, I wish I had that. Like, I want that too. If I wasn't a believer, maybe life wouldn't be this way. But you see, if we want to create an accurate self-image as Christians, we have to make sure we're looking at the right mirror. And that's what Peter is trying to do. This is why he's sending this message saying, hey, look, this is who you are. This is the mirror we should be looking at. Stop looking to other mirrors around you and look to this one. Now, Peter says there are 4 things that this mirror will tell us. 1 is that you are a chosen race. God has chosen you, specifically you. You have been selected by God. And then 2, you are a royal priesthood. God has called you to be a part of his ministry. That is, it's not just pastors that go and do the job of serving one another. You too can serve one another and serve with God's love. And the 3rd is that you are a holy nation. Think of this as your citizenship. You're a citizen of God's nation. You're not a citizen of this world. And the 4th is that you are a people for his own possession. You see, you're not just a person. You are not just a random stranger. You are a person of God. And it's not by chance. It's been a part of God's plan from the beginning of time. You see, it's so easy for us to want to look to the mirrors of this world, right? To look to our neighbors, to look to our peers, to celebrities, to all these successful, famous people. We look to these mirrors and we try to build our self-image on these very things. But it's not to say that people shouldn't be mirrors to us. I think it's important to have people around us because it helps us understanding ourselves better and it tells us whether we're wrong or when we're right. Having these things are great. But the problem is we're all broken mirrors. Only to a certain extent can we reflect to one another the right image. And so that's why Peter's reminder is it's this very mirror that should be the greatest and the biggest mirror of our lives. And that is God. No longer do we need to check ourselves and our self-image with all these broken mirrors in our lives, but we can look to a perfect, unbroken, untainted mirror. And Peter understands that this is where we find hope. It's in the God mirror that allows us to find hope. So church, remember this. Rather than looking at the broken mirrors for our self-image, look to the perfect mirror of God, for you are his.